It says, the Vaughan official plan was approved in 2010, introduces some changes to land uses for a number of community plazas that surround our existing communities within our neighborhoods of Ward 3. These typically one-story plazas now have the potential to be redeveloped up to 5 stories. We all know the city and not the province made these decisions. The reality is that many of our residential communities were built under the premise that our community plazas would only be 1 story. If the city continues to allow landowners to redevelop up to 5 stories, many of our residents will have their homes devalued because they will be overshadowed by these newly redeveloped towers that are 5 stories high. Here's the question. If you are elected on October 27th, will you introduce a motion at council to either undo these changes or to exclude those plaza locations that were originally built as 1-story buildings? Mr. DeGette, you're first.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2010, in September of 2010, the new council took their positions in December 1st. In September 2010, the official plan was approved by the City of Vaughan Council of the time, and then subsequently approved by the region. And they did acknowledge the fact that on Western Road, there's 3 locations where there are plazas, corner plazas right now, and you can build up to 4 stories. I'm not sure about 5, but definitely 4 stories. Now, the community is against that, and that's not the only location. There's other locations throughout the city. It was all part of intensification and provincial policy that was given to us, provided to us. But the old council approved that. We had to deal with that. There was a lot of concern expressed, and the matter has gone to the Ontario Municipal Board. Right now, that decision rests with the Ontario Municipal Board. I am not sure that we can undo what is being done, but I do sympathize with Weston Downs residents and other residents in the area. And if there is an opportunity, definitely, I think this intensification has gone too far, and we should cut down on densities. And I will definitely work towards lowering the densities, especially next to or abutting residential areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we know that official plans are established to provide some protection and some assurance that what is being approved under the plan will be maintained over time, and that should be the case. However, from time to time, there are situations that may need some revisions, and to that effect, I would be willing to look at plans as they come in, to review them individually, case by case, and where there's merit to amend the zoning or the plan, I certainly would be willing to look at that. Keeping in mind that these official plans go through a process of public engagement, public involvement, public input, and then it's approved. And so that should stand. But there will be opportunities, I'm sure, in the next little while to review and assess whether we can make some changes to that.
Next is Gary.
Okay, what I will do if I am elected as regional councillor is I will make sure that intensification and increases in density make sense to that particular community. I am going to introduce a concept called complete streets. What complete streets is it's a community-based design that's ensured through city policy where people can live and work and play in their communities. It involves developing new policies, and it involves the community deciding what they want in their particular community. It might be intensification and it might not be intensification, but what's happened with this council is the community involvement is non-existent. It's So all of these intensifications, although they are appropriate in many ways, are passed without any involvement from the community. And after they're passed, that's when the community finds out about it, and you're rightfully upset. So what has to happen is we have to develop new policies, and we have to develop something called complete streets, where people are put first, cars are put second, and we get a diversification and multiple use within a community itself. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Loretta. I think the decision that was made with respect to these 4-story, 5-story buildings, whatever they are, was the result of actually voting in special interest as opposed to the public interest. One of the things that you can count on me if elected is that I will always vote in the public interest. Whether this decision can be reversed, I don't know. And I'd be lying to you if I said I could reverse it. But I was more than certainly be willing to look at it and try to reverse it. Because time and time again, we see existing established neighborhoods being impacted by some of the development that goes on. And council might be listening, but council is not exactly active. Sometimes these applications come before council, and without putting up much of a fight, they're passed. And yeah, they can blame the OMB, and Mr. Lazati said that it's the OMB's fault and it's the province's fault, and there's nothing we can do. Well, then, if there's nothing we can do, why don't we just all go home, and let the OMB do what they have to do? So I reject the notion that council has no power whatsoever to influence these decisions. And again, I will always vote in the public interest, not special interest. Thank you, Mr. Lazati.
If somebody wishes to quote me, one would hope that they would quote me accurately. I never, ever said there is nothing we can do. But I have said that there is influence that affects our decisions. And we play a role in that all the time. And we have fought many battles in the past for the OMB. The OMB is the final decision maker. So, having said that, OP 2010 was in the making for 4 years. Yes, there was a provincial direction to identify area for intensification. That's a provincial mandate. Our staff did identify areas for intensification. It was a 4-year process with major consultation with the entire community. It was approved by the previous council. It was revisited by this present council. Many amendments were made to that OP, and there are still at least 100 appeals by landowners who are not satisfied with our decisions. We cannot please everybody, it is impossible. But one thing I do want to say, that I will continue to work, as I always have, with the community, in the interest of the community, with your cooperation, as I always done in the past, and I will continue to do so in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to make sure everybody in the room remembers that this BOP 2010 was approved in a big hurry just before the last council ended in June, or in September actually. And there are people that are running again to get back on the council, and they have to take responsibility for what was done. This particular change, or this particular situation of intensification, I can tell you, because I was at almost every single one of those meetings in those 4 years, never came up. The public did not know that this is what was going to happen. It wasn't part of the discussion. So when we discovered, as a new council, for me, as a new councillor, that this was in the BOP 2010, I was shocked, because I was at all those meetings and I was not aware that this was part of the picture. So the problem we have is once you approve it, it's very hard to take those rights away. So that's why we've asked our staff to see what can be done about making this change. And I will do everything I can to try to make that change, to protect our low-density community. Thank you.